Percent applications is what we're going to talk about today, and it deals with how to apply in everyday life using percent. For an example that we're going to have is about jewelry. And a street vendor, he buys bracelets from a manufacturer for $7 each. The vendor then marks up the price by 150%. What is the retail price? So let's explain what we're talking about with markups and retail price. You've got a retailer and he buys items from manufacturers at wholesale prices. The retailer, he then sells those items to customers at retail prices. An increase from the wholesale price of an item to the retail price is called a markup. The markup is calculated using a percent of the wholesale price. So in our first example, in order to determine what the retail price is, we're going to take the wholesale price and then we're going to add the markup. So in your example, we're going to determine what the retail price is. So you're going to take the wholesale price, which is $7. And then in our example here, it says he marks it up 150%. So we're going to add that to 150% times 7. So then, of course, I'm going to bring this down. We're going to do 1 5/10 times 7. Then you'll take 7 plus 1 5/10 times 7 is 10 5/10. Then you add those two together, and what the vendor sells the bracelets for, his markup was $17.50. So the retail price that he ends up selling the bracelets for is $17.50. He bought them for $7 at a wholesale place. He ends up selling them for $17.50. What I'll do to help with confusion, if some of you have forgotten about the order of operations, I'll put that in parentheses. Order of operations, we multiply first, then we add or subtract. Okay, so using your previous example, what is the retail price of the bracelet if the markup percent is 120%? Let me pause it, we'll come back and check. Now on this example, remember that the bracelets were $7 and we marked them up 120%. So you need to determine what is 120% of 7, because that's what he marked it up. So you can take the 7, multiply it times 1.2, because he marked it up 120%. We change the percent to a decimal and multiply it, because that is what his markup was. So his markup was 8.4 or $8.40. So that's his markup. We add it to what he actually purchased it for. He purchased it for $7. So $7 plus the $8.40 markup means he's going to sell them for $15.40. So now we're going to talk about discounts. Discounts is always a good thing. The decrease from the original price of an item to the sell price is a discount. A discount is calculated using a percent of the original price. So if you've gone into a store, they'll say your tennis shoes are discounted 25% off. You go in to buy something, a discount. You take the original price, and it can be anywhere from 10 to 90% depending upon the sale. So it's a discounted price. So in our example here, we're going to talk about electronics. You buy an electronic organizer that is on sale for 15% off the original price of $25. What is the sale price? So in order to determine the sale price, you take the original price, which is $25, and you're going to need to determine what the discount is. So you can say 100% minus 15%. So for teaching purposes right now, I'm going to do 100% minus 15%. Again, you can do this in your head, but that's going to be 25 times 85%. Then you're going to multiply 25 times 0.85. And then your final price that you would pay for the organizer is $21.25. Another way you could determine this is what is 15% of 25. So if you wanted to take $25, multiply it times 15%, because that is what your discount is. $3.75 is my discount because it's marked down 15%. So you can take 25. I'll just do it up here. $25. Subtract your discount, which is $3.75. You get $21.25. Either one of those are sufficient techniques to use to determine how much you pay. So in looking at both of these examples, personally I think that the one in red, determining what the 15% is, and then subtracting it from the total cost is the simplest method. But either one of those will work. Okay, you're going to be talking about using sales tax and tips. Again, another life lesson for you. Example 4, you go into a restaurant and you have a bill in your restaurant is $22. You leave a 15% tip. The sales tax is 6% on the $22. What is the total cost of your meal? So you need to determine what is 15% of 22 if your service was good. Then you need to also determine what is 6% of $22. Now in this example, what I would do is I would add the 15% tip to the 6% sales tax. Excuse me. So 15 plus 6 is 21. So we need to determine what is 21% of 22. So I would take the $22, multiply it times 0.21, my percent. $4.62. That is for my tip, and that is for my sales tax. So I'm going to take $4.62, add it to how much my actual meal cost, $26.62 is how much totally you spent that night on dinner. Example 4. A pair of jeans that originally cost $42 is 25% off. Find the sales price. So the sales price that I'm looking for is how much you're actually paying for the jeans. So you're going to take your $42, then you're going to subtract your 25% times your 42. Simplified, you're just going to take your $42, you're going to multiply it times 0.25. That is $10.50. So being that it is on sale, I'm going to take the $42, take off $10.50. Oh goodness. You should be paying the sale price of the jeans $31.50. Our next example is finding an original amount. A furniture store marks up the wholesale price of a desk lamp by 80%. The retail price, what they actually sell it for, is $35. What's the wholesale price? Now the wholesale price is what did that store actually buy those lamps for? So we know that the store is selling it for $35, which is the retail price, which is $35. But in order to determine, you're going to have to determine how much that he bought it for. So we're trying to determine how much did he buy it for. So it's 100% plus the markup, which is going to be 180%, because 100% is how much he paid for it plus the 80%. So it's 180% that we're going to multiply times the wholesale price, but we don't know what that is. But we do know that the retail price was $35. We're trying to determine what X is. So we have 35 is going to equal to, I'm going to go ahead and change that to 1 8/10 x. You change the percent to a decimal, they're multiplying, so now I'm going to divide each side, divide each side by 1 8/10. 35 divided by 1 8/10 is, so what you'll do is you divide it, you get approximately $19.44, because you took 35, you divided it by 1 8/10. That's the example I left on the board. Notice that the 4 is repeating, so it's not going to be exactly, but it's going to be about $19.44. Again, if you're confused about where to go, think about money, and you're going to go up to the hundredths place. Example 6, our last example. A store marks up the wholesale price of a printer by 80%. The retail price is $120. What is the wholesale price of the printer? Use the previous example to determine what the wholesale price. What did the company actually buy it from before they sold it to you? Use the previous example to help you set that up. Remember, in these examples, since we're dealing with money, you're going to go back to the hundredths place. Like in the previous example. If I said tenths place, I meant to say hundredths because we're dealing with money. Now again, on this, we're trying to determine what he bought it for. He marked it up 180%, which means 180%. 100%. So again, on this last example, before the bell rang, once you take 120, you divide it by 1.8, it's going to be approximately $66.66. Notice that the 6 continues to repeat. Again, we're dealing with money. So you end up paying approximately he paid approximately $66.66 originally for the